welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here. You're here because you love your animals, as I do. And so it's with great pleasure. And I thank Assisi Animal Health. They have incredible videos, hopefully this one as well, up on their YouTube channel, as well as at Assisi University. So if anyone missed this, know that you can watch it again. And it really is something that everyone should watch a few times, not because it's me, but because this practice needs to be done more often, especially now during this pandemic, because so many people have fallen ill and weren't supposed to fall ill. And what happens to their pets. So you want to learn an easy way to navigate the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it, short term or long term. So to start off, everyone on this call probably has a pet or knows someone who has a pet. And you've trained your pets to be great companion dogs. They're great companions for you. They're great companions for your family. And maybe you have your plan in your will. How many of you have a plan for your pet and a trust that takes care of your pet? And do you know the difference? So there's a lot of information that I'm going to give you today. So I'm going to give you a minute to pull out a piece of paper and a pen. And if you don't have it, remember that it will be on the web so that you can watch it again. These are things that you really need to know. A will is something that you make that comes to fruition after you're dead. And a pet plan and a pet trust are things that you put together that come to fruition when in fact you are still alive. So most people have their pet care plan in their will. And I have this discussion with trust and estate attorneys all the time. They say, Deborah, we just put the plans in the will. They don't need anything else but having it in their will. And I always say that's tantamount to malpractice, in my opinion, because what you, the pet owning public and will making public, don't realize is you will have to need to die in order to have this plan come to fruition. It is something that no one realizes. And of course, we all don't want to die. We all don't want to make wills, and we all don't want to think about it. However, our pets are relying on us to make sure that we make a plan for their care, short-term, long-term. I used to call this program, I'm Not Dead Yet, and I know that one of the attendees here, Carolyn McAteer, wanted me to keep that plan. However, the MAP plan stands for Making a Plan that Navigates the Journey, because it has 4 parts. I want you to ask yourself if, in fact, you knew that the will had to have you die before all your plans came to fruition. And why is it that you need to make a plan that's going to take care of your pets in the event you have something happen to you? These are statistics that I want all of you to look at a later time, but these are statistics about owners and what happened to their pets when they passed away without a plan for their pets. You cannot have a plan that was made over a glass of wine. I know we all do. We've all had plans made over glasses of wine. And we know that our friends and our family will come to the aid of our countrymen. However, in the real world, that might not happen. And especially now during COVID, if you go in and check yourself in or go to get checked and are checked in because of what's happening, you haven't made a plan for your pets. There isn't anybody going to take care of your pets. And if they do come and take care of your pets, it might be animal care and control. And I'll talk later about why that's not such a great idea. Now, you're probably wondering how I discovered my why I need this plan, what's going on. Well, in 2013, when I first built the first plan, the I'm Not Dead plan, I had broken my ankle. And I had 9 dogs that I fed in the basement. They lived in my house, but I'm pretty regimented with how I feed my dogs. So I know who's eating, who isn't eating, what's going on. And, you have some fatties who can't eat and the other ones eat too slow. So you have them all in little kennels so that they can eat their food. And I discovered that I didn't have a plan for my pets. Now, my husband loves me very much, so do my sons. However, both of them were away at college when I broke my ankle. And my husband, clearly said to me, I'm taking care of you, not the dogs. So as I sat there with a cast like this on my leg, I said, I'm sure I'm not the only one who doesn't have a plan that they can pull together people to take care of their pets. So thus grew the MAP plan. After my accident, I wanted to help people pre-plan for the care of their pets and pre-plan for myself so this would never happen to me again. I am so maniacal now, especially during COVID, because I have actually changed the MAP plan because of COVID. I used to say you could have friends in Connecticut or in Arizona or in California, and they would take a 2 or 3 days to come and help you with your pets. P.S. All of us know now that New York was the pariah of COVID at the beginning. And so no one could come to New York to get my pets if I got sick. So you really need to have this plan. Most of us believe that our family, and if you're in the rescue world, you've already signed a contract that says the dog goes back to rescue. If you've bought a dog from a purebred dog breeder, it probably says the dog goes back to them, and they will take care of us and our pets. Well, without directions and without written directions, that's not necessarily going to happen. This is a flawed belief for two reasons. Our families, like my husband, want to be with us and take care of us, their loved ones. And quite frankly, we might think our kids know exactly what we want them to do with our pets, but they might not have a concrete idea about who you want to give your pets to if something happens to you and you can never take care of them again, or who would be a good person to give the pets to short term so that they can care for them while you're recovering from something. So you really want to make sure that these two flawed reasons don't rule the way in which you prepare for the plans for your pets. I know I've given this talk to a number of breed clubs, and I can tell you that not one of them have created a plan with me because they're going to do it later. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it next week. Well, every Wednesday I hold a meeting at 6:30 at night Eastern time so I can keep nudging people to make sure they make their plan. It's called the MAP community, and we just sit there and talk about how life is with you now with COVID and everything else, so that I just keep it top of mind that you need to think of the people and you need to think of your pets. There are two reasons to make a plan. If you happen to have a dog that is from a shelter, you've probably signed a contract. That dog is going to go back to that shelter unless you address where that dog might be going forward. You can work with the shelter to keep them in the family, but you have to talk about it. If you have a dog from somewhere else, you are going to have to talk to the co-owners. You're going to have to talk to your family on where this plan needs to go and where it leads so that your pets can stay with you or stay with someone. I often say to especially bully breed shelters, you need me to come in to talk to your people because those dogs have less of a chance of getting out of a shelter than any other dog. So you really need to make these plans. They are the sweetest dogs. And please don't think I don't like, I love bullies. I just think that they really need somebody to have something in writing to make sure they stay safe. Oops, wrong one, sorry. So the first time I opened my practice, I had this story, and I have to tell you it because it really hit home. Fluffy was a wonderful little white poodle. It wasn't a cat, sorry. I just put that picture up because I love cats too, and cats and dogs and horses and everyone. And the mother of 3 children left $5,000 to the person who was going to take care of Fluffy. And when she passed away, they all swore up and down that they would take care of Fluffy. And when she passed, they took Fluffy to a high kill shelter where they presumed, because it was an 11-year-old poodle, little miniature poodle, bad teeth, smelly breath, not necessarily groomed beautifully, would not find a home and be dispatched, to use a terrible word, but still. And what happened was Mr. and Mrs. Smith came in and adopted Fluffy because they were older. She was older. They said, perfect fit, took her home. Well, when the will was probated, the attorney, thankfully, said, well, let's go to that shelter and find out if Fluffy actually was put down so that I can release this $5,000. And lo and behold, Mr. and Mrs. Smith's name came up. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith got the $5,000. And the kids had come to my practice to say, listen, they didn't take this dog in anticipation of a windfall. And we want to make sure that this money comes back because this is not how this money was meant to be spent. by my mother. And first of all, I said I wouldn't take the case. And second of all, I said, yes, it was, because your mother put it in a general term that anyone who's taking care of Fluffy will get this $5,000. Thankfully, she put that in there so that the person who is taking care of Fluffy did get the money. But this is what I mean. I go to rescues, I go to shelters and speak all the time. And a lot of the children say, you know, my parents have all these dogs and they think we're going to take care of them, but we really don't want to. How do we have that conversation without being written out of the will? Well, you need to make sure. I have a dear friend, Yvonne DeVita, and she said to me at first, my daughter's taking my pets, and then she came and made a MAP plan. You want to know why? She said, I wanted to relieve the guilt. She said, I just didn't want my daughter to feel guilty that she couldn't take my pets or to feel guilty and take my pets. She said, so I said, well, you're the first one, like my children. My sons are the two first people, and my husband are the three people who would take my pets if something happened to me. But in the event they can't, i.e., my husband said, no, I'm not going to take care of your dogs. I'm taking care of you. It is great to have backups. So you have 3 backups. It's really important. So the MAP blueprint should cover every animal. Now, I have to tell you, most horse people do not ever write any plan for their horses. And who among us on this recording and on this program have a horse? Maybe not many of us. However, could you take a horse from a friend? No, most of us don't have the property or the ability or the know-how to take a horse. So if you're not making a plan for your horse, or if you know someone who has a horse, please have them watch this video so that they can, I mean, Assisi has been great to allow this to be put out there, because it really is important to make sure that these pets are cared for. The other ones that are never cared for in a will are the birds and the reptiles. Now, if you have a parrot, I mean, I'd have you raise your hand if you could, but if you have a parrot, those things are going to outlive you unless you're about 20. So you need to make a plan for that pet. And even if you're 20, you should make a plan for that pet. And if you have a tortoise, a reptile, you need to make a plan for that pet. Dogs and cats are easily taken to a shelter, rehomed. Not really, but I'll say it's easier than a horse, a bird, or a reptile. So make sure you have a plan. These are the animals that should be covered. Now, what does the MAP blueprint stand for? So the first piece that we address is making a plan. You have to decide, and you have to reality test what kind of plan you want to make for your pet. Then you have to appoint caregivers. You need to appoint people who you think are going to take care of your pets. And as I said before, you want to make sure only one of them is a family member. The other 2 or 3, and everybody says, Deborah, I don't have 2 or 3 people who would take my pets. Well, that's what we help you find when you join us in the MAP Blueprint program, because you really do know the people who would take your pets. I mean, your neighbor might take your pets for a week or 2 while you're in the hospital recovering. You walk past people all the time. You're in an agility class, you're in an obedience class, you go to the vet, there might be vet techs. Appointing caregivers is not as hard as you think. You just need to take the time to do it. Then, as I said before, your kids and your husband, I love mine and you love yours. They have no idea what I feed my pets because it's all up here. Everything's up here. So you need to address the needs of each pet, their pet care. Do they like their nails cut? Don't they like their nails cut? Are they good with other dogs? Aren't they good with other dogs? Everything you know about those pets needs to be addressed so that whoever takes those pets knows that these dogs live together their entire life and should remain together. Or this dog, not so much with another dog. I have one, I love her to pieces, little white dog's not her favorite. So I have in her little file that I have that, you know, Roxy should not really be with anyone who has a little white dog. And then the last piece, which is the most important, is you need to publish your plan. I had a attendee of one of my weekend programs who wrote everything up and then stuck it in the drawer. And when she unfortunately passed away from a surgery where she wasn't supposed to die, it was routine. Someone came in and told her husband, who was her executor, I know where Susie Q wanted the dogs to go. And she placed all the dogs. And then the co-owners came and said, where are the dogs? And he goes, well, Susie told me she knew who the dogs were supposed to go to, so she placed them. And he never knew about the MAP plan. It hadn't been published. And so they never got their dogs back. And, you know, this is like such an octopus of a program that takes into consideration so much that you never think of. It's just join us and your mind will be blown. You need to publish the plan not only with your husband or your wife or your kids, but also with each caregiver, with your attorney, and with your veterinarian. Now you might ask me, Deborah, why in God's name would you do that? And I always say, well, because the more people who have eyes, the more redundancy you have for the care of your pets, the more likely your MAP plan is going to be carried out. If you leave the dog to one person, and God forbid you leave it to the care of your trustee or attorney, because they no more want to find a caregiver for your pet than the man in the moon, it really is difficult to make sure your plans are carried out. You need people. I always say, okay, so Susie is my first line of defense, Carolyn's my second line of defense, Anne Marie's my third line of defense, and in that order. And so if Susie can't take it, she knows she can call Carolyn. And if Carolyn can't take it, she knows she can call Anne Marie. So there's always those people who know each other, who, if something happens, they know they have backup. I've got your back. I've got your back. And for the dogs and the cats and the birds and the horses and the reptiles, having their back is really key. Also, if you don't let your veterinarian know who your caregiver is, there's a little bit of a disconnect, my friends, because you really want to make sure your veterinarian knows who can bring this dog in to be treated in the event you're recovering from something. So the benefits of making the MAP blueprint is the pet care directors and caregivers are provided by reference in your MAP plan. The pets can manage, your pets can change and the MAP be updated to reflect your current pets and caregivers. And the MAP changes, yet your clients do not have to redraft their pet trust or will. So I only have 20 minutes now, so I can't go into depth about the pet trust or the will. But what you want to know is if you refer to something in your will or you refer to something in your pet trust, that can be changed a million times without paying an attorney. I know the attorneys here might want to say to me, oh my God, what are you doing? But really, the MAP blueprint is spoken about in the will. Whatever animals I have listed in the most recent MAP blueprint are the ones that are covered by this. It really makes it a one-stop deal. The MAP changes, yet the clients do not, and you will redraft their will or their trust when necessary. And the pet trust is a one-time expense. You want a pet trust. So there are two reasons you want a pet trust. First of all, it can be accessed if you're not dead yet, very important. And it makes sure that if you make it irrevocable, it cannot be pulled back into, and 5 years have passed, it cannot be pulled back into your estate or pulled back in to take care of you. You want to make sure that money that you set aside for the care of your pets is not pulled back into your estate. So making it irrevocable is important. And I always talk about the amount of money you put in and who is the remainderman for the trust. Might be some animal health care, animal shelter that you want to support. Why use the MAP plan as a template? It assists you to find caregivers for your pets. Your vet is fully informed, as I said. The caregivers are fully identified, on board, and redundant. Redundancy is key for your pets. If one can't take care of it, the other one can. And the transfer of these dogs, which is all you should really care about, because the people who are taking your dog shouldn't be in it for the money, like those kids for the $5,000, they were in it for the money. These people should be in it because you're there for them, they're there for you. And really the only piece is to transfer the dog from point A to point B. If you join the MAP community, it's free. It meets on Wednesday nights. It's really fun. There's the bit.ly, that's the next one, December 2nd. Always love to have people be a part of the program. Here's all the information to tell you about pet trusts. And who am I? So I'm a reform litigator, PTA mom. I mediate conflicts between people over animals. I've written a book. I speak all over. And I'm a go-to person for many newspapers. Here's my contact information. I think I made it. I think I made it, guys. Did I make it in 20 minutes, 25 minutes? Do I have any more? Because I can talk a little more about stuff.
Yeah, you've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh, I've got 10 minutes. Oh, great. So let me go back then, because I'm trying to make sure I don't run over. And the most important piece here is this one, the make a plan. So when you're making a plan, as I said, make sure it's a reality tested plan, because we all have the plans we want for our pets. We want them to live in a house. We want them to be the only dog. We want people to stay home from work and take care of them. I mean, these are aspirational goals, but you really need to make sure that the plan you make has the ability to have your dog live in a situation that keeps them safe and healthy. That's where we start. When you're appointing your caregivers, make sure, especially now during COVID, that you have somebody write next door. It is so key for people to make sure they have people next door, because none of us have faced an epidemic before. And a pandemic, epidemic, made it really clear to me that my map, people who I had posted as being my caregivers for my pets lived in North Carolina, lived in Maryland, lived in New Jersey, lived in Connecticut. And as I said, when New York shut down, they couldn't come to get my pets. So we've rewritten the whole instrumental part of the program to address the fact you need to make sure you have someone nearby. So if you have many dogs, you need to make sure that there's someone that can get to your pets. And that might be a neighbor. And I'll tell you what I did, which was really important, especially for pet owners out there who probably are reeling from all the information I've given you. People who have a number of dogs and maybe breeders have thought about this, probably haven't done anything to effectuate it, but they've thought about it. If you're a pet owner, the greatest thing you can do is when you take your dog for a walk, which now during COVID, we're doing at least twice a day, most of us, look at who has a pet while you're walking around, and then make a little postcard and say, hi, I'm Debra Hamilton. Well, you can say Debra Hamilton, but then you should really use your own name. Hi, it's me, my telephone number, my address. In the event something happens to you, know I live at 8 so-and-so place, Pleasantville, New York, and I will be happy to take care of your pets if something happens to you, either in your house, if you can, or in my house, if you can. It's better to keep the pets in their own home and go and visit them than to take them to your home. Just always easier. But once I did that, because I walked around my whole entire neighborhood and put postcards in and said, listen, if something happens to me, if something happens to you, I'm here, I'll help you. Every single one of them came to my house, thanked me so much they hadn't thought about it, right? Our mortality is not something we consider ever. And they came to my house and said, well, we'll do the same thing for you. And quite frankly, that was the method of my madness. I wanted to make sure that some of the neighbors who were around with dogs who I had met during my walks would come and take care of my pets. And then some of the people who didn't have pets, right, who I met, because didn't everyone do their gardening in March, April, and May? So you met everyone as they were cutting their bushes and weeding. I put them in their boxes as well. And they all came and said, listen, we would love to be able to take care of your pet. We love your dogs when they walk by, blah, blah, blah. So I had 8 people in a radius of 3 blocks who came to me and said, I'll be happy to take care of your pet. And I just thought of it because everyone who I had already in my plan might not be able to get here. So they were appointed caregivers short term. Now, there is a really interesting part about this that the slide must have fallen off. I apologize. The bottom line is there are 7 things you have to prepare for. You have to prepare for divorce. So you should have a plan in the event you and your significant other get divorced, so the pets don't suffer through a divorce. This is how we're going to share it. And it's always easier to write how you're going to share it before you dislike someone, because unfortunately your pet doesn't hate your ex. So you really want to make sure that that plan is in place before anything like that happens. We've talked about death. What about delay? You might not be able to get home, especially now in COVID. If you go visit someone, you have 14 days. What happens if you're delayed? You need to make a plan for that. If you contract a disease, say COVID, say cancer, say anything that could happen to you and you're in the hospital, you need a short-term caregiver. Disability. So that would be my broken ankle. So that would be your broken ankle or your broken wrist. How do you take care of your pets? You need to have a plan. And then you have dementia and disaster. So all of us worry about our colleagues who live either in Tornado Alley or Fire Alley or Hurricane Alley, to name just a few. And so we would like to know that there are people who are out of harm's way that we can go to with our pets, because you see all the people evacuating with their pets. Where do they go? That is something you need to pre-plan and think about as well. And dementia, unfortunately, has become something that we really do consider. And so understanding what you can do, both with dementia and disease, to allow the pets to maybe stay with the person as long as possible, or to visit the person. Because in my experience, if you bring the pet back to someone suffering with dementia, it grounds them. It gives them that piece of life that they remember. And even if it doesn't, I work with the therapy dog program for the National Dog Show. I'm on the board of directors, and therapy dogs always ground people in nursing homes and even in dementia wards. So I think I'm pretty much coming to the end, ladies. So I want to make sure that I don't run over. Let me know, because I can go on, or I can let this go. If you'd like more information, please take my information down.